Hello, thanks for joining me. Today I'm sat at Victoria Station. I'm about to catch a train down south into East Sussex. I'm going to go to Polegate. And when I get to Polegate, I'm going to catch a bus to the largest town in East Sussex without a railway station. Found my train, so this train is going to Orr, but obviously I'm going to be getting off at Polegate, and then like I say, when we get to Polegate we're going to have to catch a bus to the largest town in East Sussex without a railway station. This is one of the units that was originally built and was in service with C2C, but now it's ending up with Suffolk. So it could take me just over an hour to get to Polegate, but for those of you watching, I'll be there in a matter of seconds. I've arrived at Polegate. My train has continued on that way towards Eastbourne, where it will reverse and continue on through Hastings to Orr. I'm going to find my way out of the station. I'm going to catch a bus to Hailsham. Now, Hailsham is the largest town in East Sussex without a railway station. Hasn't always been that way. Interestingly, when the railways were built, Hailsham was considered to be a more important town than Eastbourne. Eastbourne, as the resort town we know today, simply didn't exist. It grew with the coming of the railway. So Hailsham began as a branch line from Polegate. The stations at Polegate has moved around a bit, and I think that's a thing for another video. But there was a branch line. It ran north to Hailsham. It opened in 1849, and it remained a branch until they then extended the line northwards up to Erridge in 1880, and it became a through line, affectionately known as the Cuckoo line. And for quite a number of years, obviously, Hailsham enjoyed having a reasonable railway service. But then in 1965, the line north of Hailsham was closed. At the time, the trains would have been worked by mainly by BR Standard Class 4 MTs. Here's a picture of one. And then the line, as I say, was closed in 1965. The line continued on until 1968 as a branch line once again, and that would have been worked by thumper diesel units, which, for those who don't know, picture one. I can remember them still in service, and we still see similar ones, the Hastings unit out on the main line, although that's a slightly different one. And the Spa Valley Railway have got one, so you can see thumper units around today. They would have been the last trains to work to Hailsham in 1968. What I'm going to do, I'm going to find my way out of this station. I'm going to catch a bus. I've never been to Hailsham before, so I'm quite excited to have a look around Hailsham. We'll go and find a site at the old station. We'll have a little look at the town, see what's there. I'd like to one day do the whole of the Cuckoo line. It's something I'd be very interested to do. It's not something I'm going to do today, but one day, probably in parts, I'd like to try and walk it. And also, at the time of filming, in a few weeks' time, the Spa Valley Railway is going to be holding a Cuckoo Line Gala, which I'm hoping to attend. So that will bring back some nice memories of the Cuckoo Line. Right, it's time for me to go and catch a bus. On the bus. I do always quite enjoy a bus ride, but yeah, prefer trains, but get good views upstairs on the top of the double-decker bus. I'm going to try and show you now whether I'm going to see this. Just in a sign saying Cuckoo Trail, so that's the old railway, where the railway line actually used to cross the road. I think it's probably here. Look, see there's a row of trees just there, and then it would have continued on. Obviously, I know you can't really see much, but it's a case of looking at on above. You can usually sort of tell various lines in looking at the way properties are spaced, etc. So the line, when it was the Cuckoo line, the latter half favoured trains going then in towards Eastbourne, I think, but originally it was the other way round, where trains would have been built to favour going towards London. Now we're just going to pass this rather ugly building coming up in a moment. This is the site of the old railway station. It feels a real shame. Look, see it's coming now? That's where the railway station was, and like I say, you could go and have a meal in there until only a few years ago. It seems a real shame it was allowed to just be demolished like that, and the place was such a boring building. So the line to Eastbourne is behind there. I'm going to continue enjoying this journey up towards Hailsham. So here we are. We are now in Hailsham. I'm going to get off the bus close to the end of the route, but I think we're about to see where the station was. Of course, we will go and have a proper look on the ground. In fact, we're actually going up over a bridge. I don't know how well you can't see it talking, and we'll have a look at this properly. But basically, we're going over a bridge over the old railway. So I think where those houses are over there, that's where the station was. We're currently on the bridge. Oh yeah, and on the other side, I could just see what is now the Cuckoo Trail. So we'll have to go and have a proper look at that. I'm not going to do the whole Cuckoo line today. We're certainly going to have a look at it. So this town, it's got population of 23,400 approximately. So yeah, it's not a huge town. Lots of railway station. The first one we did, Woodley, that's about in Berkshire. That's about twice the size. But then we've been to smaller ones like Cranley, largest settlement in Surrey railway station. That's about half the size. So you know, it kind of could do with a railway station. And later on, we'll discuss whether it ever will get a railway station again. It's obviously got a fairly good bus network. I'll certainly give it that, and it does look like a pleasant town. Like I say, I'm excited to explore Hailsham, having never been here before. So we're almost at the end of the bus route. We'll have a look and see what there is to see here. Just got off the bus here by Tesco's. Off the bus goes. Not sure exactly where it's going because, like I said, I don't really know this town. But this is Tesco's. The reason for me walking through Tesco's car park is because I know the railway line used to run along there, so that would be the extension that ran north up towards Erridge. As I've mentioned a few times, it's called the Cuckoo Line. You're probably wondering why it's called the Cuckoo Line. Well, further up the line is another town which also doesn't have a railway station, Heathfield, smaller than this. It was said that when they had their fair every spring in April, a lady would release a cuckoo, the first cuckoo of spring, and the name has effectively stuck, and it's always been known as the Cuckoo Line right up till when it closed, and even beyond when it closed. It's now called the Cuckoo Trail, and I think it is. Oh, this is interesting. It's not quite like I expected, but we're here. Look, I found a bridge. This is definitely a bridge over an old railway line. So we'll have a look down here. I see there is a way down there. So what we'll do in a minute, we'll go back and have a look. I can sort of see a path. It's more overgrown than I thought, because of course trains aren't coming along here anymore. So look how overgrown it is. So that goes into a housing estate. I need to find my way. I think it should be around the fence and down. Let's see if I can get myself down to below this bridge. There's the bridge. That's where I was a moment ago. So if I was to walk that way underneath the bridge, I'd end up in Erridge and I could go for a ride in the Spa Valley Railway. That's not what I'm going to do today though. I'm going to walk along the railway this way. 3 miles to Polegate. I'm almost tempted to walk all the way back. I'll have to see how things go. But if I walk that way, a little way, I should find the site of the old railway station. Just a little way down from that bridge, heading back towards Polegate. I'm coming along the old railway line. This is where we went over on the road. So okay, it's not the original bridge over a railway, but the point is there is still a bridge over what is now the Cuckoo Trail, so it sort of leaves the legacy. Obviously this bridge you couldn't really fit a train under, but the line never did reopen. It wouldn't be the only thing that needed rebuilding. That's generally what happens when you reopen a railway. Things got built over it. Now in this case we've come in here into a car park. Ahead of us there's a housing estate. That is where the railway station would have been. So no offence to people who live in those houses, but if the line ever did reopen, they probably would have to be demolished. I have other ideas on how the line possibly could reopen, which we'll talk about later, although chances of anything happening at the moment, I'd say, are fairly unlikely. But that, basically there, is the site of the railway station. And the road which runs along there is Station Road. I can just see a little white house behind the trees that's clearly much older than these. I think is possibly the old station master's house. See the house? I know you can't see it that well, but just through there, that's quite likely to be the old station master's house. I'm going to have a little look around the town now. Just a couple more clues to the old railway station. That's the modern houses built on the site. we get a better view of this one now, and I notice as I walk past it is called the Station House. And then on the other side of the road there's a pub called the Railway Tavern, and this is Station Road. So there's all your clues that this was a railway line once. As for other stations on the line, like I say, I think a whole video on the Cuckoo line is what we need to do, but they fared better on the whole. The station buildings have survived, just unfortunately not here, probably because it is the largest town. The site was required for development. Anyway, let's have a look around the town away from the old railway now. This is Hailsham Common Pond, one of the most well-known landmarks in Hailsham, often considered to be the jewel in the crown of Hailsham. The town centre is that way, hidden behind these bushes on the island, and all ourselves getting away from the old railway line. That is still the housing estate where the old railway station was. I am now going to get away from the old railway because I do want to go and look around the town. I'm going to walk around the pond and head up to the old town centre. When I explore these towns, I quite like going down some of these little back paths that you're never quite sure where they're going to take you. This one's called Stony Lane. Lots of stony walls in that very Sussex style. Anyway, I think what's going to happen is this should have taken me from just by the pond towards the town centre. Admittedly, I'm not too sure. I like how ahead, let's see how the building has had its corner cut out for us to get through. I think we come out here. We are, yes, we are in the town centre. And that must be the parish church over there. So I'm going to go that way, see if I can find a church and see what we can see over there. A moment ago we just came out between those two buildings there, out Stony Lane. As I say, found the town centre, and this appears to be the parish church. Now admittedly, I don't know anything about this church, so I've just simply come across it. I don't know if we can go inside. We'll certainly have a look, because it's always nice, I think, when you visit town, if you can have a look in the parish church. It's a nice, well-kept graveyard. We'll have a look. If we can't go inside, what does it say? Hailsham Parish Church. Yeah, so that's what it is. And here it is in front of us. If we can't go inside, maybe I'll come back another day if I walk the Cuckoo line. I'll always have a break here. Yeah, okay, the church isn't open, but like I say, it's not the end of the world. Sort of come to expect it now, that they're not always open. I think I need to go and have a drink, so I'm going to go and find somewhere to have a drink, and then we'll have a little look around a bit further. I'm now right in the heart of the town centre. I just wanted to give you an idea just how large the town centre is, that it's not your sort of typical small place that may not have railway stations. There's a church over there where we were a moment ago. Here you've got possibly 1950s, 1960s shops. They're probably built around the time of the railway closing. And then over there I can see various buses to Eastbourne on the board. So like I say, I'm not sure how I'm getting back if I'm going to walk or get a bus. And you've got what appears to be a shopping centre over there. So like I say, it's a fairly large town. There's also a Waitrose over there, so I think I'm going to go in there and get myself a coffee. So having just been to Waitrose to get myself some food for my journey back, I found my other favourite establishment that begins with a W, Wetherspoons. I'm going to go in there and have a pint. I've just enjoyed a pint in Wetherspoons. Behind me is a housing estate where the railway station used to be, and ahead of me is the Cuckoo Trail going down towards Polegate. If you look at the map, it's quite interesting. It shows you running from Heathfield, which is the other town, which is, if the railway was to open all the way, it really could benefit. You've got Horham, Hellingway, talk about that in a minute, Hailsham, where we've just been, the pond we saw. Polegate, it actually continues right round to Hamden Park. I'm certainly not doing that today. I'm going to go back to Polegate along the railway. It's a nice afternoon, so it seems, you know, a shame to just get on a bus. I might as well enjoy a nice walk along an old railway, and I've come to just past the site. There's a railway station, and it's like I'm catching a train down to Polegate, just like it was when it was a branch in 1968, except the only thing is I'm not actually on a train, I'm walking, but it's a nice day for a pleasant walk. So it's about 3 miles, so yeah, I'm going to enjoy it. As for the big question, will the railway ever reopen? Will Heathfield ever, well, Heathfield, yeah, but also I mean Hailsham, where we are today, will those towns get a railway again? At the moment, I'd say it's probably unlikely, but it's not completely out the question. There's been various studies looked at reopening these lines, also possibly more favouring, well, this line would join up at Eridge with what is now known as the Uckfield line, but the Uckfield line is of course the stub of a former through route from Lewes. They've talked about reopening the last little bit past Uckfield down to Lewes. Whether that will happen, time will tell. If it does, it'd be great. It won't actually really help Hailsham out. If the line was to open as a branch, well, from here to Polegate, it'd be good, but it would mean people would have to travel south to travel north. Although for anyone working in Eastbourne and Hastings, then of course that would be very useful. As for the line reopening northwards, it would be good for trains running from Eastbourne to London. It would be a straighter route north, so that is would certainly be a desirable thing. And like I say, Hailsham, town of 23,400 approximately people, would be the main town. And then if Heathfield also got a railway station, there's about 7,000 there. Hellingley, which is was a village, that effectively would probably also get a railway station. And is it Horham, I think, would be another candidate for having a station reopened. Not so sure about some of the other stations further north. They might be just a little bit too small to merit a railway station reopening. Time will tell on that one. The other thing would be, of course, traction. The line was never electrified. Well, there's a slight caveat on that one. The line was never electrified, the main line we're walking along now. And of course the southern region, all the lines that were electrified on the whole were third rail. There were one or two exceptions in London, some commuter overhead lines, but on the whole it was all third rail. Nowadays they don't like you building new lines or electrifying lines to third rail, hence why lines such as the line from Reigate across to Guildford has never been electrified, because they won't allow them to electrify it with a third rail. So one option would be use overhead and use trains like the Thameslink trains, which basically they run on the third rail south of the river, they run on overhead north of the river. It'd be a bit odder enclave of overhead electrification in the heart of the southern third rail territory. Of course, another option is diesels, which they do on the Uckfield line. That would probably be the most obvious thing to start with, just have it simply as a diesel line. Possibly future units, EMUs, could run on battery power and then run on the third rails, charging up the batteries. So that's one possibility. My suggestion, this might sound a bit of a mad idea, but I like mad ideas. I'm very pro trams. I love going to countries in Europe and, well, in the UK for that matter, where we have tramways, and riding trams. I think riding trams was one of the most enjoyable forms of transport ever. The town of Eastbourne is over 100,000. Now most towns of that size in Germany have a tramway, it's quite normal. So my suggestion would be build a tramway in Eastbourne, effectively running along the coast, along that corridor, but then build a route running north from Eastbourne up towards Polegate, taking along the corridor of where the hospital and everything is. I know you've got a railway between Eastbourne and Polegate, but the only station is Hampden Park, so you could serve a lot more people, and then you're given the option to travel. If they live in a northern suburb of Eastbourne, they could travel, say, up to Polegate to catch a train. They wouldn't necessarily need to go into Eastbourne. That would take cars off the road. People who live in the urban area of Eastbourne may live a couple of miles away from the railway station, and they would say drive. A tramway could take cars off the road. And then the fun bit is have an interurban route running up here towards Heathfield. And if the line ever reopened, you know, the line doesn't, with a tramway, the line wouldn't necessarily have to go where the housing estate on the station was. You could do something a bit different, take it round some houses, maybe at least take it as far as Hellingley. So that would be one option. Now Hellingley, I keep mentioning Hellingley. Overhead wires on the Cuckoo line, it sounds the most bizarre thing, doesn't it? But it has happened. This part of the Cuckoo line was never electrified. In fact, no civilian trains on the Cuckoo line were ever electrified, but Hellingley had a hospital, you know, like a big asylum. And there was an electric tramway from Hellingley station running a branch line to Hellingley Hospital. So there was actually, beside the Cuckoo line, overhead wires have been witnessed in the past, so the train would have gone up and down. I did do a similar video on a similar hospital up in the Midlands, up near Leek in Staffordshire. From Leekbrook Station, which is part of the Channel Railway, there used to be a line up to the hospital, and the hospital, a bit like Hellingly, parts of it have been demolished, parts of it have been redeveloped into housing, and of course the tramway's not there, but you can walk the tramway if you are interested in that video. There'll be a link at the end. So there was a similar thing at Hellingly. I did originally think when I came here today whether I'd get up there to explore that, but I've realised that is a video for another day, as exploring the whole of the Cuckoo line is. So I think I've done all what I wanted to do here. I've had a good look round Hailsham. I really like Hailsham, it's a nice town. I think it'd be better if it had a railway. It'd be a bit of a shame they would, if the line was opened on this exact alignment, you may have to demolish some of the houses, but then when they reopened the Waverley route in Scotland, they did demolish over 60 modern houses, so it's not as alien as it sounds. It does happen. As for the cycleway and footpath, it's great that while it's not being used as a railway, people can enjoy it, but you could, if you reopen this as a railway, you could have a cycleway footpath beside, so that's not necessarily a problem. If you look at the formation, a few trees would have to go, but new trees would be planted, so it's possible that something may happen in the future. Only time will tell on that one. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and like I say, one day, I don't know when, well, I think my next thing on the Cuckoo line, if I can go to it, would be the Spa Valley Railways Gala. I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to have a gala to sort of pay tribute to the Cuckoo line, and then yeah, because it was 60 years ago it closed, so that will be, I think, a really nice event. And then one day I'll come and hopefully explore all of it, and possibly the old Hellingly Hospital branch as well. So thank you very much for watching, and from the Cuckoo line I've now got to walk back to Polegate. Probably take me around an hour. I mean, I'm looking forward to that, but that's off camera. There were no more stations south of here, so thank you very much for watching. Please do feel free to like, share, comment and subscribe. It really helps me if you subscribe. I'm hoping to get to 15,000 subscribers this summer. So from the Cuckoo line, I'm just going to turn the camera looking towards Polegate in the direction I'm going to go.